Okay, welcome everyone. This is a Cracking the Code Guide to Postgraduate Research Studies Application Workshop that is brought to you by a project called Postgraduate Research Opportunities in the Northeast, the Network for Equity, or PRO-NE. We are a collaborative project between all 5 institutions in the Northeast, so Teesside, Northumbria, Sunderland, Newcastle, and Durham. And we've been brought together to try to remove the barriers of access to PGR studies, especially focusing on home students from racially minoritized backgrounds. So that is the goal of our main aim of our project. And we are aware that there may be some students, international students here as well. Our applications workshop is mostly targeted for our home students from racially minoritized background, but we think it's also applicable to everyone. We may not be able to cover all the issues for international students, but you can drop us questions and we can also try to include these as well. This is who we are, wonderful colleagues from all 5 institutions. So Lawrence from Teesside, Benjamin, you will hear from all of us a bit. Benjamin from Northumbria, Matthew from Sunderland, Kevin from Newcastle. Unfortunately, it's his son's birthday today, so can't join. And myself, my name is Maja. I am from Durham University Psychology Department. So a little bit about the background of why we're doing this. So a couple of years ago, there was a huge report showing very structural barriers and lack of representation of home students from racially minoritized background in the PGR studies. And the Ministry of Higher Education decided to do something and remove those barriers. And this is how this whole project was set up. We're actually finishing our project. This is one of our last workshops we are doing. We hope to continue, but the project is actually done quite soon. And what they've noticed in this report is that there was a very large gap in awarding first-class degrees for students of Black, Asian, and other minority ethnic qualifiers as compared to white. And this is why we are trying to remove these barriers. That's a little bit about the project. The focus here is on application to PGR studies. What you're going to hear today, what we're going to start is just a brief general introduction of what those postgraduate research studies are, what are different options. And then this will be just a very short intro. Then you will hear from our fantastic Pro Northeast current PGR student and from our fantastic academics. And they will tell you a little bit about their journey, their careers, and why it's interesting and important to engage in postgraduate research studies. And then in the second part of our workshop, we will talk a little bit more about the application process, how to formulate a research question, how to find a supervisory team, what are different options, especially focusing on professional doctorate, and we will touch a little bit on the funding opportunities in the Northeast as well. So when I came to Durham a couple of years ago, I'm not from here and I didn't study here. I was also myself very confused about all these possible different terms here that exist: PGR, MRes, PhD, what are these? So we thought when we were designing this workshop just to explain a little bit what those different terms mean and refer to. So if you're thinking about, finishing your undergraduates, and if you're thinking about research studies, you have various options actually to choose from. You can think about whether you just want to try a little bit for 1 year or do something more longer for 2 to 4 years. Usually we talk about research when it comes to PGR studies, but actually different forms of PGR studies also include courses, and you can also gain some very practical skills. PGR studies can be done both full-time, but can also be combined with other things and done part-time. And importantly, there are fundings available out there to help you pursue your PGR studies, but you can also engage and fund them yourselves. So if you're thinking about, okay, I'm interested in research, but I'm not sure if I really want to spend next 3, 4, 5 years on it, you just want to see whether this is something for you, then there is a short option which is called a research master and typically lasts for just 1 year. So what are the options when it comes to research masters? Usually they involve a large research training component in a dissertation, but there are also a few taught modules added to it, for instance, about methodology or other skills. Another form of research masters, depending on the different fields, it's called the Masters of Philosophy, where you don't usually have the taught modules. It's really about the research training and a longer dissertation. In specific fields like law, you have something called Masters of Law by Research, and in the ladder or like Faculty of Languages for arts programs, you also have something called Master of Letters, which again includes it's very similar to the Masters of Research. So these are all different possible short programs that exist. However, if some of you already think, well, actually research is something that I really, really want to commit for a few years, then there are several options here, and most commonly known a doctorate, where you spend typically on average 3, but somewhere between 2 and 4 years working on a research topic. The most common thing that exists across universities is the PhD, or the Doctor of Philosophy. That involves a contribution of original research that is focused on a specific subject. The idea is that you become an expert in a topic that you choose, and it usually lasts full-time about 3 years. There are somewhat longer programs as well, but typically it's 3 years. But you can also do it also part-time if you want to. In the field of medicine, there is something called a Doctor of Medicine, which is specifically for qualified doctors who will do it alongside their training and specialization. However, if you typically the doctor, the PhD is done after the master's, but there is also a possibility for those who are finishing now the undergraduate program to actually combine your master's with the PhD program, and that's called the integrated PhD program. And then it combines usually a taught or a program like MRes, like regular taught masters, or sometimes research masters and the research program. And as I said, it's ideal for those who do not have a master program, so usually 1 + 3 years. However, there are further opportunities. So say, for instance, you actually are already working and thinking about like deepening your knowledge in a specific area of industry or in a specific field. You can do a collaborative or industrial doctorate, so doing your PhD while you're being employed. And this is a very interesting opportunity where you get in your supervisory team both the academic side, but also those who are experts in the industry. And there is also something very similar, which is more oriented towards your work, development of work skills, which my colleagues are going to talk a little bit more. That's called the professional doctorate, where you do both research, you have also some taught modules, but you're also very much focused on getting a work placement and experience. And your research is typically informed by practice in your work. And this is, for instance, in my field in psychology, this is also part of the clinical doctorate programs where you train to become a clinical psychologist. Okay, this next bit before we hear from our guests, just wanted to say, if you're thinking, okay, so if I pursue the research degree, especially if I pursue a longer research degree, does that affect my employability opportunity? We will talk specifically about the academic, but just in terms of general employability, these are the outcomes of graduate outcomes from 2 years ago, where it shows here that basically you have same opportunities as those who just finish a postgraduate taught program versus if you go for the postgraduate research program, and you even have a higher possibility to gain employed in professional occupations. And here's another graph from 2023. So this is the postgraduate program that combines both research programs. And you can see that in comparison to those who graduated from university, those who finished postgraduate programs, so the blue line here, there's 75% of chance of getting into high-skilled employment jobs. So yes, it takes a little bit of more while of studying, but it does not decrease your chances of getting a job afterwards, and it may even increase your chances in certain industries and job opportunities. And now, I think this was just a short introduction. I will stop sharing just to check if there are any questions, but we will hear actually from our colleagues, and most importantly, first from our current PGR student, Maria Duah, and then afterwards from Dr. Trevor James and Dr. Lawrence Nnyanzi. And I'm just going to stop sharing. Are there any questions for the first part before we ask Maria? I think that's fine. Maria, are you happy to share a little bit about your experiences and what you do?
For some reason, Teams does that to me.
I know.
I was on a roll. Apologies. So hi, everyone, again. My name is Maria Duah, postgraduate research student, PhD student at Durham University. This is my final year. Exciting. I guess if I rewind a little bit about how I got here and my application process. So I was already working in the violence against women and girls sector, and I'd always had a desire to do a PhD, but I also knew that I wanted to be able to do a PhD where I had a lot of control over my research topic. So over the years, I had found PhD opportunities, if that made sense, you know, that were paid for, but they weren't the right ones for me. So during lockdown is when I really started to research more on PhDs, and like Maja just told you, there's so many. I wasn't really sure, but it did make me realize actually I was on the right track. So I stumbled across Durham, in all honesty. So I'm from London, so that's, you know, so I'm remote studying. So for me, I was looking for somewhere that was London based so I could go into the university. But what happened was, because I also knew I wanted sponsorship, I was also being led by the type of sponsorship I was looking for example, like 9DTP. And at the time, I wasn't actually aware of Pro Nil Feast. So I started to reach out to different universities, but then I spoke to a couple of people and they said, no, reach out to the people that you'd really like to supervise you. Reach out to the universities where you know that they're experts in this field. I was like, no, you got a point there. So it made me realize that actually there was some kind of, you know, my thinking, although like was correct in the beginning to kind of like, yeah, I want to be attached to somewhere London because I'm in London, but actually, was that the right place? Did they hold the right experts to support me in this journey? So my master's in social work was in 2015, so it was a little while ago. So I knew that, like, you know, I had to get back into kind of writing and thinking. So I started to write on a topic which is child to parent abuse. that's where I ended up in the Vogue arena, was looking at children and young people that use abuse in the family home. And I really wanted to explore that further, because what happened is that in all my different job roles, somehow that popped up. So I knew there was something significant happening, that as professionals, as someone that worked as an informal social worker, we wasn't given enough due diligence to. But also I knew that, like, I wanted to move away from frontline too. So as Maya was explaining, like, it was also about me thinking about where do I want to go next, and how do I want to keep feeding into the work that I used to do for others that are joining that journey as a professional. So I wrote basically on the subject, and I probably banged out about 12,000 words. I kind of brain dumped everything I had. I was like, this is my opportunity to kind of showcase to the supervisors that I would like to supervise me what I'm capable of. So I started to reach out, and I literally reached out to Carleen Firmin over LinkedIn, and I said, hi, can I have 5 minutes of your time, please? And she did. And I think that was the best thing I ever did, was like have a leap of faith in myself, and I kind of swallowed my fear, and I reached out to people that I was in awe of, that made changes in the sector that I felt were aspirational. And also Durham were saying, like, hey, we're reaching out, like, it's our time to kind of take in students. And it was from when Carleen gave me 5 minutes of her time. It was more than 5 minutes. Um, she explained to me the process a bit further. So reach out, talk to people, and don't be afraid. And basically she gave me the guidance to kind of, she gave me time, and actually other people gave me time before Carleen at different universities to help shape my writing. So literally it's, first of all, you need to decide what type of PhD or postgraduate study you'd like to do. Go and talk to the people in that subject area as well. Find the departments in those universities, reach out, have informal conversations, make connections, and think about who you'd like to supervise you, because that's how I ended up in Durham. So I sent in my proposal, and that was sent around the sociology department, and I was just waiting with bated breath for someone to pick it up and say they wanted to kind of run with me. So Nikki Rutter and Alison Job, and at the time Sam Burns, they contacted me and said, hey, we're really interested in your proposal, would like to support you in making the application. So that's how it worked for me, is that I reached out prior to when you actually needed to apply, and I actually found potential supervisors that were willing to guide me and shape my proposal for application. And they also helped me to understand what funding was available. So although I applied in plenty of time, 9DTP is very competitive. So for me to have actually been able to apply for that, I would have had to wait another year, and I didn't want to wait any longer. So that's when I found out about Pro North East. I'd already been accepted to Durham on my proposal for child to parent abuse. And that was just about whether I was self-funding or was eligible for this funding. And I made application and I was successful. And here I am at Durham. And as much as I'm, like I said, in London, remote working, I do feel really connected to Durham, and I do travel up there. Um, and I do feel really privileged to be part of this funding, and anything that I can give back, I always will try to as well, because I think for me, I wasn't sure if this was possible, if that makes sense. But this funding and just the support you get made it possible. So even if I didn't get the funding, I would have made a way. I would have found a way. Does that make sense? And even now, we're thinking about what are my next steps. And along my journey, I've also been part of different project teams where I've already produced reports on this subject matter. Privileged to be a co-author with my supervisor as well. So you do and I've also guest lectured as well. So alongside you doing your studies, there are so many opportunities for you to try new things, be part of different groups, and really kind of be part of different subsections of the university alongside your main area of study. Is that okay? I don't want to ramble too much. So I don't know if there's anything specific that I might have missed or not said.
I think that's amazing. Let's see if there's any questions. Please ask questions. Maria is here for a little bit. She can, yeah, answer all. I think well, maybe they will come back. Aha.
Okay.
Yes.
No, it wasn't. I mean, to be fair, I think when I decided that like I was going to do this PhD, it was at the ending of, or no, it was during lockdown. So I don't know what I was thinking, if that makes sense. I just knew that like I wanted to do a PhD, but when the opportunity did come up, one of the things that I did confirm with my supervisors was that like, you know, I kind of laid it on the line where my life was at and what kind of like goes on in my life. And they said, no, there's no commitment to be up in Durham like consistently. I'm a PhD postgrad research student. I take control of my learning. I tell them, not tell them, I liaise with them and discuss with them any kind of issues, barriers. But to be honest, I've loved coming up to Durham. Yeah, it's a journey, but it's really lovely up there. I love being in a university and all the bits that happen. So not really. And it's not hard I'm happy with online supervision. I do a lot of work remotely. Um, and to be honest, a lot of our supervisors do travel down to London. So it's a mix and match. Uh, oh, for me, for application deadlines, I think it was just when I spoke to the universities, and it was also dependent on the kind of funding or sponsorship that I was looking for too. So it's really about digging.
There's a question about, did you have a fully formed research idea?
Yeah, I did. And you speak to your so it hasn't really changed. I mean, I've kind of sometimes gone a bit on a tangent because sometimes research takes you down a rabbit hole and you've got to learn to kind of put yourself back on track. But yeah, I did. So my title is, what are the contextual and systemic barriers for the families experiencing child to parent abuse when they transition from children to adult services, specifically in the age group 16 to 25? Because I think that young people become adults and we see them in a vulgar arena where they shouldn't be on criminal justice pathways. So for me, it was really about how can we inform the research and reframe our professional practice. And it was really important for me, as being previously a social work practice educator, that this piece of research can be translated into practice. So it's not just something that we can just theorize about, it's actually translatable into social work practice. And yes, I'm working on a novel way of kind of reframing and the idea around this hidden harm, I guess. And also just to give you a heads up that you know, really think about how you want to do your research as well, because that's also important. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and then I was introduced to new ideas. So I would now say that I can now tell people or show people how to complete a Delphi and actually develop a Delphi survey and questionnaire, because I've done two now. And I also can run SPSS analytical data. So you learn so much along the way. Yeah, so just think about what you would like to do as well in that actual research arena.
There's a question about, did you work at undergraduate and master's level inform and linked to your PhD?
Did I, sorry?
Did the work you did at undergraduate and master's level link to your PhD?
Funnily enough, not really. So
Oh,
my first my first degree is in media studies, and but my second one in social work, yes, it did. But interestingly, my love for media and creativity brings that into my work. So when I did practice, like I was a frontline practitioner, and even when I design training now and resources, that love of media always kind of comes through. So especially when I worked with young people, it was useful tools. So I'd say that like don't shy away from something if you think you haven't got the background, because everything's quite transferable. And also when I did another kind of postgraduate certificate, I did that in professional writing, and I remember I did that all around race and displacement. So I also have a love for that. And so like my forward thinking for what next is really maybe focusing on perhaps race, and but still thinking about what it looks like in the child to parent abuse arena. So yeah, there's ways to combine. If that answers. But it was really my professional life that informed my PhD.
Okay, I think just waiting. Maria, thank you so much. I know you have to also run. Thank you so much for making time and for sharing. I think this has been wonderful and very useful. And if we have a further questions, if it's okay, we can just drop. So drop a few to you to answer, and we can share it with our.
No worries, and I'm happy to have informal conversations with anyone. So please feel free, and good luck on your journeys, everyone. Thank you, Maja. Take care. Bye.
Then maybe we start with Lawrence, because Lawrence has to leave quite quickly. Lawrence, do you want to maybe just introduce, talk a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Maja, and good morning, everyone. We apologize for the technical challenge we've experienced, but these things happen sometimes. So I'll be very brief. I'll just talk about my journey, getting my PhD, and as well my career, and then I'll give a little bit of my reflections on why one should consider PGR research. But firstly, I want to introduce myself. I'm from Teesside University. I'm a program leader for a doctorate in public health in the School of Health and Life Sciences. And my career integrates three important portfolios, and that is research, teaching and learning, and the knowledge exchange and translation. As part of teaching and learning, I've led development of a number of programs, including the Masters of Public Health, the doctorate in public health, which I will talk a little bit more later on, and the doctorate in professional practice. And as part of my research, I co-lead a number of projects, including the Health Determinants Research Collaboration South Tees, which is a £5 million project funded by the NIHR. I'm also co-lead on this Pro Northeast project that is organizing this workshop, and a co-lead on another project called Equita project that looks at improving uptake on cancer screening. And for the enterprise and the knowledge translation, I lead a number of collaborative partnerships. I'm the chairman for the TUMAP project that collaborates Teesside University, Makerere University, and the NHS to lead training for frontline healthcare professionals to recognize NCD morbidity. I'm also a senior collaborator on the global burden of disease estimates that tends to estimate prevalences, incidences on a number of diseases. I supervise PhD projects and professional doctorates, and at the moment I'm welcoming applications in the area of public health and global health as well. So I'll start by talking a little bit about my journey for the PhD. Soon after completing my master's, I knew that always I wanted to be in academia, to be lecturing. And one of the things I needed to do is to complete a PhD. And therefore, I laid a strategy to be able to, first of all, look for admission and as well be able to find funding to support my ambition. So my strategy included preparing a template of my personal statement, a CV ready to go, but that can be adjusted based on the different adverts of opportunities. Why I did that is because I knew at the time the internet was there, but it was not as it is today, that information was readily available. And so sometimes you could see advertisements very late, and you don't have a lot of time to then sit and then develop a new proposal, a new CV, and all of that. So my advice is that prepare the templates, have a CV, have a working proposal, and have a working personal statement that you can be able to adjust very quickly if you see an advert which might be late, maybe 2 days to deadline, or sometimes 3 days to deadline, and stuff like that. So I had to put my applications in a number of universities, and the T-side was among those. So T-side then invited me for interview, and on the day of the interview, I had my interview at midday. I organized at midday, but I had to travel from London, where I was living at the time, because I had just completed my master's in the University of Westminster. So I had to take a train to come and do an interview at Teesside University. But then midway the journey, the train broke down. And so we had to, we got stuck, and then time was moving. So I lost hope. But what I did was to communicate very quickly to the university that our train had broken down. And the university was kind. They said, we'll wait for you for as long as we can. So of course, somehow the train was fixed. We actually got here at 4:30. And I found the person who was supposed to interview me was in the park. I mean, she was in her car going. But when she saw me coming and running and panicking, she imagined this must be the person, probably. So she stopped the car, asked me, are you the guy for the interview? I said, yes. And then she parked back her car. Then we went in, organized very quickly, and then I was the last person to interview. So already at that time, I was worried, thinking that this is already messed up. But I said, I will not give up. I'll go in there. I'll do my best. And what surprised me was that I was given 10 minutes to present my idea. I spoke for 5 minutes, and she told me, stop there. And then she asked me questions. I think there were about 5 questions she asked me. And then she told me, okay, you can go home. You'll hear from us in about 4 days. So I thought probably I've messed it up anyway. I came here very late and all of that. However, I thought that she saw the passion in me. She saw the resilience. I could have just given up, but I just showed up, and as if nothing had happened, I did my very best. And I had the opportunity to be given the scholarship. So I came and started the PhD, but there are a lot of things that I learned because I grew up in a society that was so hierarchical, where if you addressed a professor without saying professor, then that was a crime in itself, But then I come in a system here where you need to call your professor by their first name, and it becomes so difficult for me to adjust. However, I understood that I had to adjust very, very fast. So one of the other experiences that I can just recount on after enrolling my PhD is when I always wanted to address my supervisor as dear Professor so-and-so, dear Professor so-and-so. So then she asked me, why would you call me Professor so-and-so? Just call me by my name. And then I found it so difficult. Then she said, okay, if you address me as Professor so-and-so, I will not respond to your email. Then one time I went and sat her down and said, why don't you want me to give you the respect I need to give you? And then that's when she told me that if I allow you to address me by Professor so-and-so, you will start to see me as somebody high up and you down here, and therefore you're going to get problems and you fear to come and share with me. So if you start to address me by my name, you see me as, a colleague. So when you get problems, you can come quickly, talk to me, and then we address them. And that, I started to understand it. I also explained to her that it's because I've grown up in a system that's so hierarchical. So every time I call you by your name, I feel like I'm not according you the respect I should be according you. So we understood each other. I had to adjust, and then we worked through. But one thing that is really important was the resilience, the commitment, and the hard work, and as well the openness. Because right from the word go, I said to her, I'm doing this PhD because my interest is in teaching in universities. So I want to build my scholarliness towards that direction. And so what she did was to carry me and take me to the person that was organizing courses and said, this boy wants to teach in a university. So if you have got anyone who is off sick or anything like that, and there are opportunities, please provide opportunities for him. And that's when I was actually given the opportunity to start to provide cover. And each time I was given an opportunity to cover, as you know, covering usually comes at short notice. But it meant that I had to really be committed, hardworking, resilient, and be able to do my very best. So through those covers I did, I was able to get great feedback from the students. And when I completed my PhD, then the university gave me a contract to stay and lecture. So having got my first contract to lecture, I made a resolution to start to build my leadership skill. And so I worked so hard towards building my skill set in teaching, but also leadership skills. And that's when I got my first course leadership on the Masters of Science in Public Health. At the time I was given this, it hadn't recruited for the past 2 years. So of course, I had to work very hard to see that I transformed this course. And my first idea was to redevelop it into a professional course rather than an academic MSc. So I redeveloped it into a Masters of Public Health, and I developed a number of collaborations for it with things like Commonwealth Scholarships Commission, the local authorities here in public health, the NHS, and so on. And then the course started to attract students, and at the moment, it's the best recruiting postgraduate course within the school. And of course, to build on the feedback I used to get from the students on the Masters of Public Health, I went ahead and developed the doctorate in professional practice, which I just want to talk a little bit about. I understand that further down the workshop, there will be a lot of talk around professional doctorates, what they are and why you should choose them. But because I'll not be around, I want to take this opportunity to talk about the professional doctorate in public health that I developed and I lead at the moment. This is a program that has been developed to equip current and future leaders in public health with advanced skills, first of all, to be able to analyze and understand the complexity of the problems affecting public health today, and then be able to apply advanced research methodology to suggest evidence-based solutions, and then apply advanced leadership skills to implement those solutions. So the focus of this program is, first of all, to develop advanced critical thinking, analytical thinking, leadership skills, management skills, and of course, theoretical knowledge in public health. The course itself is part taught and part research. So you do a big chunk of modules where you submit assessments, and then the other chunk is research. So you undertake the research project that is self-developed, and then you defend it at Viva, and then you get the professional doctorate. Why it is important to consider a professional doctorate, is because the focus is on developing a knowledge for professional practice. There's a slight difference. There's a difference between PhD and professional doctorates. In professional doctorates, our focus is more on developing knowledge for professional practice. And therefore, this knowledge should actually be transferable into actual public health solutions. It should actually be able to improve practice, and as well, it should contribute to real life situations, improving real life situations of the public's health or population health, if you like. Of course, the links are provided in the PowerPoints that will be shared. And if you want to hear a little bit more about this professional doctorate, please don't hesitate to contact me. So lastly, I will just give you a few points or a few pointers why you should consider to undertake postgraduate research. Firstly, postgraduate research is just more than just studying. It's a transition from consuming knowledge to creating knowledge. You see, you become a creator of knowledge when you undertake postgraduate research programs, PhD or professional doctorate. And again, the qualification in itself is recognized worldwide and carries lifelong prestige. There are a number of benefits. Today, career progression. A lot of organizations require study up to doctoral level in order to progress the career, and as well, the postgraduate research program would help you to go into greater depth of that area that you have interest in, and then you be a contributor of knowledge. It's really important. So I would encourage you to develop your own strategy, as well, access information and knowledge as much as possible, prepare your templates well in time, that if an advert comes up and maybe it's 2 days, 3 days to deadline, you see, you just adjust it very quickly and put in the application. Always know that it's very competitive and there will be so many people that are applying, but try your level best to shine. Try your level best to showcase your skill set, and as well engage in other things that will add to the track record. For example, engage in publications. If you've done a master's dissertation, gain mentorship to be able to publish that, because if you are competing for a scholarship position and you've got a number of publications at the back of your CV, you stand out. So that is really important. I think that's a little bit. And again, if you want to talk a little bit more, my email address is l.nnyanzi@tees.ac.uk, and I think it will also be available on this PowerPoint. Feel free to get in touch, and we can have a chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. And we will share the details with everyone so you can have a look at also especially this amazing program you developed. Are there any quick questions? Because Lawrence has to go. But we will, as I said, we will share everything with all the attendees. Okay. Then many thanks. I will post the email in a bit. Maybe Lawrence, if you have a moment, just to post the email into the chat. I think there. Okay. Thank you so much. We will now give the floor to our amazing colleague Trevor from Durham University, and shall I put the slides as well, Trevor, or you prefer just to talk? What's the best?
I think I have the slides, so I'll just put them up.
Yeah.
Because I just changed the order a bit, so I'll just
Best.
So hello everyone. So my name's Trevor James. I'm associate professor at Durham, which is the equivalent of senior lecturer, I think. I'm actually I'm in the psychology department, but I'm education track, so education focused, which is a bit different, a bit weird. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but it's basically where you're a full, normal academic, but you focus a bit more on teaching and education, and you don't focus as much on, the sort of world-class research and the big grants and that sort of thing. So there is a different, or at least two different tracks that you can follow. I think the main track is the research path. I think that's the main one that everyone knows, and that's the one which I'm assuming most people here are interested in. But there is also an opportunity to focus more on teaching and education if you wanted to as well. I thought just to say a few words about me. So I was born in the UK. My parents are from the Caribbean. My mum's from St. Lucia and my dad's from Trinidad. Well, Trinidad and Grenada. He's actually from Grenada, but he grew up in Trinidad and spent most of his time in Trinidad. And they were part of what's known as the Windrush generation. So they came over like in the 60s and the 70s to help Britain grow the economy, right, after the war. And so they came over in the dress actually very similar to what you see. That's not actually my parents, but that's kind of what they were wearing when you look at the photos. And I was born in Whitechapel in Royal London Hospital. And you can see a picture of it there. That was in East London. And the other two pictures you can see are also pictures of East London, right? So I don't know if anyone's from London or East London, but as you can see, it's very, very multicultural, very diverse. And this is where I grew up, right? So this is what I was used to. And I got very interested in like social dynamics and also social inequality, because this is an area where there are very expensive buildings and there's a lot of wealth, but also a lot of poverty as well. And I wanted to sort of understand that. So I ended up doing a PhD in psychology. But my route there was not like normal, right? I actually hated school. I did come out with the GCSEs I needed, but only just. And yeah, in the final year, the teachers were like, "Don't worry, it's nearly over now. You can leave soon." And then I did lots of different types of work, which I won't go into, but different types of jobs in the city and things like that. And eventually, a friend of mine was going to university in Stratford in East London, where the Olympics were. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And I just chose a subject that I enjoyed, which was psychology. And psychology wasn't even my best subject. I was much better at economics and creative writing, but psychology was the subject that I kind of enjoyed. So I just picked the subject that I liked, basically. And yeah, I did really well. I got like the highest grade in my year. And then I thought, oh, actually, maybe I should pursue this. Maybe I'm good at this. And I had some encouragement from the professors there. I then went on and I did a master's in research methods, and I did that specifically because I knew I wanted to do a PhD. It's a little bit boring doing research methods only, but this particular master's was something called ESRC accredited masters. So ESRC do a lot of funding, particularly for psychology, and similar sort of sciencey subjects, and that enabled me to get a scholarship to do a PhD at Royal Holloway. So Royal Holloway is University of London, but it's just outside of London in Surrey. So I did my PhD there, and then I got a job at Newcastle University, and then I moved to Durham. So I think really, as I was just going back to what I was saying about the teaching, is that there are different paths. I think normally the traditional path is you do your PhD and then you get a postdoc, and then you try to get a research and teaching post. And I think that's definitely, I guess, the standard way of doing things. But I will say it is quite a long and difficult path. And I think also, keep in mind that there are differences between Russell Group universities, which I guess are the traditional sort of more posh universities, and the non-Russell Group universities, which are a little bit newer. And financially, I mean, it's not to say that one is better than the other, but typically in a Russell Group university, you're looking at doing a traditional path with a postdoc, and you're doing your research, and then hopefully you get like a junior position in the university, and it can take quite a long time. In the non-traditional, in the non-Russell Group universities, they tend to value teaching a lot more. And actually, you might find the opposite. You might find it very difficult to do research in that environment. So I guess one thing for you to decide is, do you really, really want to focus on research? And then I would say try to get into a Russell Group if you can, and do the traditional route and get a postdoc. Or if you're more into sort of teaching, then you might want to consider the non-Russell Group universities, because they're actually a lot better for teaching, and they kind of value it a little bit more, actually. And there are some differences as well in terms of, what your day-to-day job might look like as well, depending on what sort of route you take. So I guess that's just something that I wanted to get you to sort of think about. The other thing, if I can just go on to the next slide, whatever you decide to do, whether you want to go into the traditional teaching route at a Russell Group, or if you want to do more, the traditional research route at a Russell Group, or if you want to do more sort of teaching or something different, whatever you decide, you really absolutely need to find a mentor. So finding a mentor is absolutely vital to your success if you ever want to be an academic or successful researcher. So I can't emphasize this enough. You can succeed without a mentor. It's just going to be really, really hard and it's going to take you longer, and you might end up spending years doing things that you don't really need to do because you didn't know how the system worked and you didn't know what really matters, or you didn't know how things tend to be done. And the way you find out about those things is by having a mentor and by building up a network. So there's different ways you can find a mentor. If you want to really go into research, I think joining a lab, and that's a really good thing that I would recommend. If you join a lab, ask them if they publish with lab members, because some labs are better than others, and some labs will really help your development and they'll give you easy access to publications. Other labs, you might just do a lot of sort of boring work and you might not get much from it. So you need to be sort of picky, but labs can be really, really great as a way to network, get to know people, and it will help you get that PhD funding. But if you can't join a lab or you don't want to, you can also just find a mentor yourself. You can find multiple mentors, actually. Now, we have a mentor scheme, which is part of Pro Northeast. It is, I think, coming to an end officially, but we're not going to sort of shut it down and remove the website. So if you have a look at the website, Pro Northeast, you will see there's a page with lots of profiles, lots of faces, different disciplines, different subjects, different kind of researchers from different backgrounds, not just Black researchers, white researchers, people who are international background, people who are born in Britain, all sorts, different professors through to people who are more early career. And they're all people who have expressed an interest in mentoring people like us from ethnic minority backgrounds and encouraging us and supporting us. So I would absolutely have a look at that, see if there's anyone there that you think, oh, actually this person, I really like their research, and I like the information about them. And yeah, you could contact them and send them an email and see if they would mentor you. So it's a fantastic resource. I don't know how long it will be available for, so I would say make use of it now while it's still there. The other thing as well is there is a bit more research now, a bit more, shall we say, information about doing a PhD than there was when I was doing it. There are you can get these sort of standard books about what is a PhD and how to do it. And I strongly recommend you get one of those. They're very cheap and they will tell you about the whole PhD process from the perspective of the university and the academics and the supervisors. But there are also more resources now about what it's like for individuals who want to do a PhD. And this book, The Black PhD Experience, it's basically a collection of like anecdotes or experiences of Black students doing a PhD and different subjects and with different types of supervisors and different types of universities. And it'll tell you what the process was, how did they make it, what was their route, what was their path, what were the challenges that they had, and all those sorts of things. And I think it's really great that you have these resources now. So have a look through and maybe you'll find some inspiration, or you might identify with one of the stories and it could be really helpful for you. The last thing I want to say is just in terms of support, but also in terms of different ways of thinking about your sort of career. There's a lot of really great stuff on YouTube. Again, another resource that wasn't really around much, or it didn't have the sort of content that it does now when I was doing a PhD. Now you can find just about everything on YouTube. And there's just one example here. This is a channel called The Bold PhD by Dr. Gertrude Nontera. She is, well, she was an academic in the States, in the US, but she actually left academia to work in industry. And she talks a lot about a lot of the myths and the barrier, the sort of things like, you know, it's not possible to go into industry if you have a PhD, or how do you get a job in outside of academia if you decide the PhD is not for you. And it's a little bit, she does warn a lot about the PhD, because I think for her, academia was not for her. She didn't really enjoy it at all. And so if you do want to see another approach or different things you can do after you've got a PhD, channels like this are really, really helpful, actually. And there's a lot of great advice about different types of careers and jobs that you could do outside of academia. So I think that's really important. And I mention it because, I'm going to be honest, like, academia has changed a lot over the last 10 to 15 years. When I got my PhD, the professor at the university in Stratford that I went to, he was the one who encouraged me to go on and do a master's and do a PhD. And after I got my PhD, he said, "Congratulations, Trevor. I'm glad I wouldn't do it if I was you nowadays, right?" And I was like, "Thanks, Mark. That's really helpful." But it's just that things have changed. There's a lot of things going on in the background. There's a lot of union activity. Wages haven't kept up with inflation, and there's more admin. So, be realistic about it. It's not an easy job, right? It's really quite a challenging job. And so, don't go into it thinking it's an easy job. I know people think, oh, you do academia because you want an easy life, but it really isn't like that at all. So if you want an easy life, I think doing a PhD is not the right choice. I think you do a PhD because different reasons, maybe autonomy, because you want to have more flexible hours. You want to be, you want to do research on something that interests you. You don't want to just work for someone else just to make the money. You want to do something else that's meaningful to you. So there are good reasons to do it, but having an easy life is not one of them. So yeah, check out these sort of channels as well, and be open to other ideas. If you don't succeed, it's not the end of the world, and there are fantastic opportunities and great things you can do, and a lot of money you can earn doing other things outside of academia as well. And just to sort of double down on that point, this was a post from LinkedIn. They do this every year where they survey employers and they say, what are the top skills that they are looking for their sort of senior positions, right? And the most in-demand skills by most companies, these are the top 10, and I've highlighted the 5 that basically are absolutely core to doing a PhD, right? So communication is absolutely vital when you're doing a PhD, how to actually communicate sophisticated ideas, how to give presentations, and how to write to different audiences. Project management is your entire PhD is basically a project management exercise. You're mostly managing yourself, but you will understand how to do Gantt charts and how to plan things and how long things take. Analytics, any type of PhD you do, whether it's science or humanities, will require analytical skills. Problem solving, again, the whole PhD is about problem solving. What to do when you don't get the findings you expect, how to solve problems, funding issues, all sorts of things, and research as well. So you absolutely, if you do a PhD, you will have 50% of the skills, the core skills that most companies are looking for. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, I can answer any questions quickly. Otherwise, I suspect we're running late, so you might want to continue.
We still have time for a few
Still
questions
have
if you
time?
have time. So there was someone interested in mentoring, so I think Charlie sent the
Yeah.
links.
So if you're interested in mentoring, I mean, we'll send the slides around to you, and there is a link, and you can go to the Pro Northeast website. Or if you just click, there's a link on the slides and it will take you there, and then just go to the mentoring page. You'll see all the mentors. But also, have a think about your career, what subjects you're interested in, and have a look around and see who you could find, right? you've got to be very proactive when it comes to things like finding a mentor, and it's good to have more than one mentor. So think about the subject that you're interested in and ask, hey, could I have a conversation about this? Or I'm thinking about doing a PhD. This is a bit about me. Could I get some advice? Maybe this time of year might be a bit tricky, but in general, people have pockets of time, and if you can find a bit of time, I think most colleagues will be happy to answer a few questions, especially if they know you're from an ethnic minority background, and then they know that the barriers are there, and they know it's not easy. So okay, I think that's it. So
I think that's it.
So good
Thank
luck,
you so
everyone.
much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Trevor. What we have prepared for you in the next part, in the second part of the workshop, is actually zooming in a little bit on the application process, just to tell you a bit about generally what it entails. Of course, there are some specific criteria for different funders as well, but in general, we want to showcase how the application for PGR studies looks like. We will showcase first a short video that our project made. It's only 2 minutes, and then we will dive into some of the questions more specifically. So I will share again my screen.
If you are thinking about applying for postgraduate research, here are some tips to help with the application process. How to apply can vary depending on where and what you intend to study. A good place to start is by looking at university websites for PhDs in your chosen field. In some cases, adverts may be for existing research posts, whilst others may expect you to develop your own proposal. Universities should provide clear guidance on the application process. You can also email the Postgraduate Research Director for the subject you're interested in to help you find a suitable PhD supervisor. The first part of a PhD application usually asks for generic information. Some of this will seem obvious, but make sure you provide all the details requested within the word limit. After this, you will likely be asked for your research proposal. A research proposal is a summary of what you intend to do in your research and how you plan to approach it. First, take the time to develop your understanding of your research area, looking particularly at what is already known in your field and identifying gaps in existing research that you hope to be able to fill. In your proposal, you'll need to present a review of current literature. Conclude by outlining how you've arrived at your intended research questions. Consider your methods and methodology. Your literature review should help you understand how others have approached similar research, but make sure your approach addresses your specific aims. Focus on showing what makes your research new and unique, including how it will build on and advance the knowledge landscape in your field. You should also provide a timeline outlining how long you intend to spend on each phase of your research. Remember to factor writing time into this. Many PhDs will also request a personal statement. This is an opportunity to expand on what's led you to your research topic. And finally, don't hesitate to reach out to the university you're applying to for more specific advice on getting your application over the finish line. Now go get them, Tiger.
Finally, that we solved this. This was just a short video about explaining a little bit of the process of application. And we will share now and talk a little bit more in depth of what this entails. I will just quickly put up the slides, and starting from really the basis of thinking about why you want to do postgraduate research study and how does that translate actually into your application. This is just... So I think
the first thing that's important to know and to kind of reflect on why you want to do research studies, because this is usually you will spend quite a few years actually pursuing something. And I think people have various motivations for why they choose PGR studies. They may be very, very curious about a certain topic, as Maria was saying as well, from her practice, from everything that she's been experiencing. She really, really wanted to gain more depth knowledge about it. You can also do it for the reasons like broadening your knowledge and interest in a given area. And PGR studies give you from 1, but actually up to 4 years of actually just focusing on a specific problem where you can both broaden but also contribute to the knowledge as well. In a lot of fields, of course, pursuing PGR studies also allows you to develop your research and method skills, take different courses, learn to handle different applications, different statistical, for instance, skills, also working in a lab for people who are interested working in different fields. So you can really, really expand your method and research.
That's her weight class for a relationship, but he's not interested in a relationship. And then she basically decides the bottom 9 are no longer in her weight class.
Yeah, sorry. Just to continue. And of course, we talked a little bit more about this. It's possible that you want to actually pursue an academic career and stay at work for universities, but also PGR studies allow you to really combine your practical skills and your work in the industry and different fields as well. So I think it's important to reflect why you're going to do it, because they do require quite a lot of your time and effort in pursuing. And usually how it works overall at many universities is that there is an application process that usually starts at the beginning of academic year. In October, there are some places where there is a second application process starting, but most common is starting in around October. The deadlines usually for most applications to be submitted are around December and January. That, of course, varies. And this is why it's important to look at the department, the field that you want to apply, what their specific deadlines are, because it really, really varies, not only within, across different institutions, it varies in the same institution across different departments. And specifically that is important to check, because if you're applying for certain type of doctoral schools or scholarships, those deadlines again may vary. But in any case, you have to check for the specific department in a specific university what is their deadline. Typically, the documents that you need to submit include a CV, also include oftentimes 2 references that you need to obtain from your previous supervisors, mentors, both academic, but also can be industry and so on. You need to write a personal statement or a motivation letter where you showcase why and you reflect on your motivations, why you want to pursue PGR studies. And depending on the program, right, if you're going for a shorter research master or if you're going for a longer, and depending on the funding, again, this varies and you have to look, you have to write a research proposal. Now, sometimes that research proposal is just 1 to 2 pages. It's a very short research proposal. Sometimes it is quite an extensive research proposal for about 2,500 words. But that again depends on where you're applying. And then lastly, what often happens if they, before you get an offer, is that you usually have an interview with your potential supervisor and with the directors of the research school that you also need to prepare for. And you present usually there a bit about yourself, a bit about your core idea, and you will answer some questions.
Now, at the very beginning, and what is the core of the whole process, is that you need to find your research questions, right? Your core topic that you're passionate about. And how to, there is no one formula how to find the best research question, but there are some tips to find a good research question. So in general, research question, what you study in a PGR studies is the question that hasn't been answered before. So it's kind of a novel contribution to the literature or a novel contribution to the practice if you're pursuing a professional doctorate. That doesn't mean it has to come from nowhere. It has to be embedded in the existing research and existing literature, and you want to increase the understanding. It will increase the understanding of a given subject. So sometimes it's about answering, for instance, inconsistent findings. Something is about pointing a gap that previously hasn't been pointed. Sometimes it's bringing different fields together. So you make a kind of interdisciplinary research question. There are many, many different ways. The key with this research question, especially if you're pursuing something like a PhD, so a longer PGR studies, it has to be both broad enough and specific enough. And by broad enough, it means that it can generate even more questions because you want to keep up, pursuing something over a course of a longer period of time. It has to answer a specific problem, but it should be the one that is generating also further question. And usually it is something that is of interest to the research community or to the industry or to the practice, something that is really a burning question that hasn't been answered and others have not dealt with it. When you find that research question, that question has to be the center of your proposal. Usually the tip is that when we read the research proposal, it has to be there already in the first paragraph. And it doesn't mean if the proposal is 1 page long or 15 pages long, the research question has to be clear to us already on the side of committee who is evaluating from the very, very beginning. And you have to imagine that especially if you're applying to the funders to get a scholarship for a PhD, this research question has to grab the attention and somebody will be thinking, why do I need to spend money, for this? So it is really something that has to be central part. But it's very, very important, and Benjamin will talk a little bit more about it. You do not have to make this research question alone, and Trevor was also saying, as well as Lawrence, this question and research question is shaped with your potential supervisor, and you should ask and get their help and mentoring and help you draft and help you frame your research question in a good way. When you're writing the research proposal, what it usually entails is to cover the existing literature, right? So you have to embed it with what's been done before, provide an argument why a research question is important, novel, how it will contribute. You usually have to talk a little bit about the aims and objectives of your in your research proposal. You have to discuss what your methodology, what your approach will be to try to answer your research question. It's also important that you make a plan of how you're going to go about answering your research question, right? Because the committees usually evaluate whether it's feasible to do something even a year or 3 years, or whether it's not actually feasible. So you have to really think a little bit about, okay, can I answer all I want in this period or not? Depending on the field, of course, you also have to consider whether certain ethical issues that you need to take care of when wanting to go about your research questions. And more so these days, even for those who are pursuing purely academic, scientific interest, you need to be thinking a little bit about, can you translate, what's the impact of your research? And as I said, you need to also be thinking for different research questions, whether the lab, the university that you're going, is it feasible to do it? Do you have all the equipment you need? Do you have all the resources you need or not? Because that's something that will be evaluated as well. And finally, a little bit before we continue, if you're interested and you want to apply for funding, there are various different schemes to apply for funding and various different opportunities at universities. You can apply for the scholarships provided by the central government, the UK Research and Innovation System. They exist for different scientific disciplines, for arts and humanities, for economic, social sciences, for natural sciences, and so on. So that's one pathway. Another pathway is to think about in the universities, there are something called the graduate teaching assistantship. So during your studies, you will do a little bit of teaching, which will help you cover your fees. And you also get something also to cover your living expenses. Sometimes you can also apply to charities and trusts that can fund different scholarships. There are also scholarships given at the university level. So for instance, with our Pro Northeast project, we were giving scholarships at Northumbria, Teesside and Durham University. Sometimes the scholarships can be given by the business and the industry from the places where you work. So it's partially funded by the industry, partially by the university, for instance. And there is a possibility to apply for a PhD loan. So there are many, many different opportunities. We will send a few links as well that you can explore yourself. This is it from my side. And I would invite now my wonderful colleague Benjamin to talk to you a little bit about one of the most important things, and that is how to find the supervisor.
Thank you so much, Maya, and thanks everyone for attending this workshop today. I think this is a useful workshop for people that are looking to apply for PhD or doctoral programs. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Dr. Benjamin Ajibade, Senior Fellow of Higher Education Academy. I'm one of the I'm institutional lead actually for Northumbria University on this Pro-NE project, and also I'm leading the development strand for Northumbria University on the project, as well as co-leading the development strand with Maja. Also, I'm an assistant professor in mental health nursing. So I'm from health background as well, and admission lead. I'm an NMC visitor through the Quality Assurance Agency. And what else about me? I'm an editorial board member of International Journal for Further and Higher Education, and recently I became a mentor as well for Windsor Fellowship PhD doctoral program, which the head office I think is in London. And that's a little bit about myself. So practical ways for finding the right supervisor. You need to think about your research alignment, research interest aligned closely with your own. You need to read recent publication. You see that Maja and others, they've talked a lot about how you find your question, how you finalize it, how you fine-tune it, and so on and so forth. But when you read recent publication around your topic area, because I often find many prospective students telling me that I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to discuss. Can you suggest a topic for me? It's not good to suggest a topic for a candidate, because any topic that you want to do your PhD on has to be something of your interest. PhD could be a lonely journey sometimes, because you are by yourself, you are the one researching your topic and so on and so forth. So it should be something that you are interested in. Your supervisory team can help you to fine-tune your idea, but the idea needs to come from yourself. You need to do your research. Check your supervisor's profile on the university website. Check their publications. check their history of working with diverse student background, involvement with institutional diversity programs, and so on. And why I'm talking about this is that don't forget this program, the ProNE project, is for ethnic minority individual. And why you've had the reasons why we focus on this group of people, because they are very, very disadvantaged in so many areas. I have so many experiences of people that are looking for for a PhD program, and they struggle because of their background. They might not even understand how to actually process it, and that is why we showed you that video about how to apply for your PhD. But there are other things which your caller might actually have impact on, because who are the supervisor that want to supervise your project? Is your idea something that they are really interested in? And when you look at it, because it's your project, it's your personal idea, it's what you want to research on, you really need to find someone or people, that is the supervisors, that align with that your topic. And people that has worked with people from ethnic minority, with students from ethnic minority background as well. I have so many stories of some of my past students who did BSc and Masters with me, where they face a lot of issues. And I'll cite one example. I have one of my past students, I won't mention the name of the university, who applied to a university. And when she applied, I advised her that that's your supervisory team, especially your director of study. Do you think this person can actually supervise your topic? Because this person is from a completely different background, but the student is a nurse. So you need someone in that area. So, but she said, oh, this person has worked on my topic before, blah, blah, blah. And she went on. I said, have you checked their history of working with ethnic minority students? What about their publication and so many other things? Just to cut the long story short, this lady started having problem when she did the first meeting to actually check what a topic is about, how did she want to go about the topic, and so on and so forth, because there is now argument that no, you can't do that, this is what you should do, and it caused a lot of issue for this lady. To cut the long story short, I asked her to request for another supervisory team. They wouldn't remove the director of study, because they think that she's the best to supervise this lady. Why she's not? They added another supervisors to the team, and so on and so forth. This lady spent 3 years. Please, this is not to scare you, but I'm telling you a true life story. Spent 3 years on the PhD program, and she couldn't get ethical approval. Not that it's not possible to get ethical approval for a topic, because it's a straightforward topic, but they just passed her from one corner to the end for more than 2 years on ethics. She asked to withdraw from that university and go to another university. Went to another university with the same exact topic, and she got ethical approval within 3 months that she transferred to this university. So please, all these things, they might seem a little bit, oh yeah, you exaggerating it, but I'm talking from past experiences. Reach out to current and past students as well. This lady did not do this as well, which I advise her to do. But she now did it when it was too late, when she started facing trouble. And she now realized that the people that they have put as a supervisory team, she would never complete that PhD. And that's what happened to her. So reach out to those current and past students, check the approach to mentoring minority students, level of support regarding both academic growth and personal challenges. And another thing is that think about the university as well, because each university might be stronger in one course than the other. And this is very, very important. With this lady that I gave an example about, faced problem on the course that she applied for. It doesn't mean that that university are not good in other areas. So check to make sure that your need will be met as someone from ethnic minority. Interview and evaluate during your initial meeting. Ask direct questions. Please don't be scared. You are a student, a prospective student, and you are paying fee. Even if you are getting the fee, your PhD sponsored, someone is paying for that money. So please don't be scared to ask questions. Ask questions about diversity, about inclusivity. Although you might feel that they are interviewing you, but when they give you the opportunity to ask questions, please ask question and let the question be direct question. Don't be rude, but let the question be direct question. Do they seem empathetic and genuinely interested in you and your topic? Then funding opportunity, it helps secure funding for your PhD. So you can secure fundings for your PhD, and I'll talk about this later on as well. Some supervisors may be able to provide funding projects for you, because some universities, they have every year a number of supervisors that write a PhD topics. So check sometimes if they align with your area, you can use that opportunity and your PhD will be sponsored. Maya has talked about so many funders that give PhD funding. So all those things are very, very important to you. Next, please. So challenges and consideration for ethnic minority students. Understand the unique challenges. There are implicit bias, there are microaggressions and lack of representation, especially in the university setting. If you go to somewhere like London, you will see a good representation of academics, of supervisors from ethnic minority group. But when we come, as you are coming down towards the north, this gets little reduced. So there is, and when you look at it generally in the UK, there is lack of representation of people from ethnic minority in higher education as lecturers, as supervisors as well. So think about this, that this is there. Although people talk about, we look at microaggression, we look at bias, and we make sure that it's not present. But I'm telling you, this is still there. So that is why you need to do your findings very well. Then importance of supervisor fit, acknowledges and respect cultural and personal experiences. So you need supervisors who understand or is willing to understand your background, because that is very, very crucial for your academics. You heard what Lauren said before. He wants to call his supervisor by professor, and this person doesn't want professor because the culture here is different from the culture that is coming from. All these are very, very important. I've seen like a supervisory team that even as small as what Lawrence described before can actually destabilize the student PhD program. It could cause so many issues for the students. So think about your supervisor. It doesn't mean that the supervisor must be someone from ethnic minority group, but we have many supervisors from white background, from various background, that really respect culture and they understand people's personal experiences. They understand people's culture. They understand people's value, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, because this is very, very important. And look for supervisors that can give you guidance on your PhD application process. And that is why it's good to reach out to them beforehand. Then think about supportive environment. That is, the supervisor who promotes diversity, equity and equality, and inclusivity. Then key factors for ethnic minority students in choosing a supervisor, which I've touched on, is cultural sensitivity and inclusivity. So think about supervisor that is culturally aware of different students' needs, because we have so many a group of students with disability, students from ethnic minority, students come from different background as well. And you've had people like Trevor, his own background, you've had from Lawrence, you are hearing from, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background as well. So all these are very, very important. Look at their track record of working with diverse students, because this is really, really important for your course. It's a 3 years course, a minimum, and it's not an easy journey, and you need to feel comfortable with the people you are working with. I've seen students who asked to request to change their supervisor several times during the course of their PhD program because of incompatibility with those supervisors. Advocacy and representation. So think about supervisor that can promote equality in academia, that have similar background if possible, or those with a history of mentoring students like yourself. This is very, very important. Next slide. So I will quickly talk about professional doctorate, and Lawrence has done justice to this actually. So it's completed in a modular via a modular or taught element. So why professional doctorate is different from the PhD, the normal PhD, is that it's based on your profession. So your focus is to improve your profession. So people that are admitted for a professional doctorate are people that are highly skilled in their profession before they can give them that opportunity to study professional doctorate, which is the same level as a PhD. But on this occasion, you attend classes. The classes could be online, it could be face-to-face, depending on each university, but it has this thought element, and you have to submit like assignments to meet the required level. And this is because people that are in practice, we believe that they might need that little extra support to bring them to the high level of a researcher, and that's why you do that. So you do that for, I think, half of the period of your doctoral program, then the rest will be purely your research. And this is internationally recognized as well. The range of professions varies for different institutions, but it could include education, health courses, business administration. We have law, we have those in different areas, so professional doctorates of letters, and every area we have it in business, education, and everything. So it provides a doctorate certificate on successful completion. Next slide. So professional doctorates have examples, different entry requirements, and it's like almost the same thing as what they've been discussing. So you need a research proposal. In your research proposal, you need aim, relevance, methodology, and analysis, which has to be sound. Then you need to an outline of what you want to do, personal statement, documentation, including research proposal, qualification, and references. So it's exactly the same requirement of what you submit for your PhD proposal. Next. So then this PhD professional doctorate is offered by Newcastle University, Northumbria University, and Teesside in the northeast of England. And the links are there. So when you receive the slide, you'll be able to click the link and see what provision is available. Is Matthew still here? If he can quickly talk.
Yes, I'm still here. So my name is Matthew Lee. I'm the Development Strand Lead for the University of Sunderland. And just to add, although the University of Sunderland doesn't have professional doctorates, it is open, and we are open to PhD applications. So much of the information that was mentioned at the start will still be applicable if you were seeking to look at doctoral study at Sunderland through a PhD route. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you so much. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will continue with the presentation. So before I go into Glenn's slide, I will talk a little bit about myself. I'm a staff nurse, like as you've heard, I'm a mental health nurse. And my journey into education in the UK is actually a very, very tricky one because I came to the UK as a qualified nurse. I was working in the nursing home, I work in the NHS, but there is something in me that wants me to like study more. So I applied for my BSc top-up degree. As many people will know that nursing in African country, we finish with HND diploma. So I did that and I've like see so many setbacks because when I register in the Northeast here, I find out that I'm like maybe we are only two who are black in the class throughout my course. In my master's, it's the same thing. I think I was even the only black student in my master's. Then till today, shockingly, I've never been taught before by anyone from ethnic minority group. I've never been taught by a black person. I've always been taught by British people, English people, white people. Now, that's not a disadvantage, but the issue is that how will you expect a student who is from background to fit in really well in a community where you are almost the only black person? So it makes things so difficult for me that I finish my BSc top-up that should be for 2 years. I finish it in 6 months because I don't know the system. Nobody explained the system to me. So everything that we are doing today is really a very, very great opportunity. I don't have that opportunity. I did my master's. Before I did my master's, I did a wrong education course as well. I took advice from my lecturer, my program lead, but you know, the way they explain things might be different to the way I understand it. So there are so many things that can affect your journey. Please ask questions, seek help, seek mentoring. It's really, really important. Now, to my PhD program, I did the doctoral program, a professional doctorate program. And my journey into that program, I actually applied for a PhD. I was working in the university. I'm from a black background and I face resistance from, I won't mention the universities as well. I face resistance from some people who are higher up because they feel, when did you join the university as a lecturer? We're not going to sponsor you. So I wasn't sponsored. I didn't get a response to my application for 2 years. But until I went ahead and went from one office to another, I eventually end up with professional doctorate program. But luckily for me, I had a very, very fantastic supervisor who is a white lady, but has supervised tons of people from ethnic minority. So my journey was actually a very, very good one during my PhD. And I really thank my supervisor who, even till today, we still do some publications together and so on and so forth. So now I will present Professor Glenn Alson's slide. He couldn't attend today because he's in graduation and he's traveling out of the country. I think he might be on his way even as I'm speaking. So, and that's why I'm the one presenting his slide today. So, navigating the basics. They've talked about everything about navigating the basics, so I will not be talking about that because I don't want to waste our time and the time is fast spent. Then what is a postgraduate research student? Everything about that has been talked about as well because the other presenters, they've covered all those areas. So, and you know that full-time PhD could be 3 years, part-time could be 5 years, is 5 years. But that doesn't mean that if you could not finish your full-time in 3 years, that you'll be thrown out of the course. I think you can finish the full-time even up to 5 years as well. And the part-time, I think you have up till I might be wrong, up to 7 to 8 years to actually finish the part-time program, depending on each university. So if you feel you are on the program and you are struggling, things are getting hard, you can take gap years during the program as well. So some are longer depending on funding model as well. So we have different funders and who will like specify how long you could take for your program as well. So some of them might say your 3 years maximum we give you is 4 years. So take note of that. Some topics are more prescribed as well. Some are developed by the students with supervisory support. Some are little from both sides. So and you will see that we've talked about so many things around that topic development and things like that. Know your topic. You need to be sure this is right for you. A very strong interest in the subject, which I just talked about, organized and self-motivated, tenacious, determined. You need so much resilience on a PhD program because, like we've been saying, you've heard it from all of us, it's not an easy journey. It's a lonely journey because it's different to a master's, third master's, or a BSc where you sit in the same class with many students. You can seek advice, you support each other. This one, you're your own. Sorry, with your supervisory team, depending on who they are. And be ready to be challenged as well, because PhD is about being challenged. You want to become a creative person. You want to become a very strong critical thinker, and that is what it is. Your plan is to get to a PhD, but the reality, did you see the bottom picture? The reality is that it is very, very bumpy along the way. So don't expect it to be too much smooth journey. I told you mine was very smooth, but I'm telling you, I still went through so many things as well. So trying to do everything during a PhD can be a bit tricky. So try to balance things up. Think about your health. It's very, very important. Eat properly. You need time to rest. You need time for your family. You need time for your relationship. Everything is really, really important. Then there are funding models which Maja has talked about. UKRI institution sponsor PhD as well. Industries sponsor PhD. We have scholarship like ProNE. We give scholarship to some students, and you can actually fund yourself. So, and I've talked about this route, but these are the fees for 2025, I think, 2025-26 for PhD. Then the University of Northumbria that I'm representing here, we have like other things that we fund. So, and we do this like every year. Last year, due to the ProNE program, we were given 5 free PhD scholarship by the university without stipends. So this year, they are offering us 5 PhD scholarship again, which will be focused and ring-fenced for BIM applicants. But we are using the Vice Chancellor's PhD scholarship route to social mobility. So look out, because we'll be sending adverts out. But the only issue is that this is only for home students, that is BIM home student, ethnic minority home students only. So, and the university will pay your school fees, but without stipends. So be sure this is for you. The PhD is not trivial understanding. Try to get experience in the research you are interested in. We'll talk about all that. Is there any question? Sorry, that's a bit of a rush because I don't want to delay us more than the necessary time. Is there any question for me?
Yes, maybe if you stop sharing so we can also see
Yeah.
you. Yeah, we're at the very end. If there are any final questions that we can answer, I know we've taken a bit longer also with technical issues. We really apologize. Yes. Second year, so for someone second year undergraduate, when would be best for me to seek advice for academic tutors for postgraduate applications?
And I'm a second year undergraduate. I would like that's for me to seek advice from. So, second year undergraduate, I will wait till the third year, isn't it? Because by the third year, that is when you actually know who you are, where you are, what you want to be as well. Because in the second year of your undergraduate, if you are not careful, if you it's good to start thinking about it, but if you now start making inquiry about PhD studies, then you might lose the track of your current study. And don't forget, you need that certificate for you to be able to progress to a PhD. So it's really good for you to wait till when you are third year. In the third year, most of the undergraduates, they have dissertation module, isn't it? So from that dissertation module, that's when you start thinking, okay, is this what I want to pursue? Why am I interested in this? And you can now start thinking about this. And some of the universities, the lecturers will actually support you because the lecturers might actually be interested in your topic or be able to signpost you to a PhD in that area.
I would just add that depending, of course, on the field where you are, but what you can do as in a second year is ask your academic advisor if there is anyone looking for people to help in a lab or help with research.
Yeah.
So you can do this kind of on the side or maybe during the summer, take experience, see how the lab looks like, see how the work looks like, see whether you're interested in it. And I think that's a very good experience to know whether this is something for you. And most colleagues look for someone to help with research, and they sometimes even have paid research internships for undergraduate studies. So I would definitely get on that, and you can ask your academic supervisors to help you with finding such opportunities, because that can prepare you for the final year and thinking about further places as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, when you are in the second year or at any stage of your undergraduate course, you will often see emails that they are looking for people to participate in the research, maybe to be a participant or something like that. Try to join some of these things because they give you experience as well. You develop your experience through all those. You develop interest in some areas through all those as well. The next question says, I'm studying MA education. Presently, I'll be finishing my MA program November 2026. When can I apply for my PhD? I would say this is the best time to start applying for your PhD actually, because when you start applying now, I think the application closes. I'm not sure if they are opened now, but they should be open now. They open
open
around
now.
October, November, and they'll be closing around March. So definitely, and that is for October next year intake. So although you are finishing in November, but many universities, they have their PhD program starting in November, some even in December, some even in January, which will be January 2027. So I will start applying now.
And also, if you start applying now, it often happens, and this is not to discourage it, that you will not make it the first time. But it might take you another round to get, especially if you're applying for a funded PhD. So it's good to get this experience and good to get working on how you prepare a research proposal. You can also improve it for next year. So it's definitely good to start early thinking about it. There's a question same about the full scholarship for PhD. Yes, it should exist, depends on the field. So you have to look at the university, at your specific field, whether they offer full PhD scholarship. That really, really depends on what you want to study. But again, I think it's a good start to already thinking whether you want to apply now. I don't know, Benjamin, if you...
Yeah, so I will support what Maya just said. People from ethnic minority, we often think that, oh, they won't give me the scholarship, but I can reassure you, you need to submit a very strong application and anyone can get the scholarship because it is assessed on merit purposes. It's not about color or something like that. And like I just told you, like Northumbria University, we now since last year start ring fencing some PhD for ethnic minority groups. So the one that will be bringing out soon. This one it will be ring-fenced for ethnic minority, and you can actually apply through any course. It's not like you are restricted on the course that you can apply for. So it's really opened. And if you need support, you've heard about mentoring as well, because that's very, very important. Make sure you reach out to, when you are applying, make sure you reach out to the prospective supervisors. Seek advice from them. The people are really, really good to talk you through. They can actually even help you look at your application before you submit it, depending on the time in their hand.
And a lot of us already have candidates who have succeeded. So what we usually do is share previous successful applications, so you can see how the full application looks like and what are the elements, that lead. So you can already, I mean, if you ask the supervisor, they probably have those that they can share, and that's already really useful to have. So you don't have to come up with everything by yourself. Of course, it's your idea, but the structure, what you need to include in application, it's good to have an example of a previous one, and supervisors usually have those.
Yeah, there's a question that so I can start application now despite the fact that I still have till 2027 to complete my master's. It depends on your choice, really. If you want to start trying, you can actually apply, because if you are fortunate to get the admission, you can actually ask them to extend it for you so that you start in 2027. But if you feel, oh, I don't want to go through that process, you can apply next year for 2027 admission as well. But some of the funders, they will ask you that you might have to have completed whatever you are doing, that you are ready to start, because the funding is from so year. So check all those information. They will put everything in the advert.
But I would already say, if you have an interesting super, already get in touch with them, because it's good to already establish a good relationship, and it's good to have their help in crafting that research question. So the earlier you start, the more time you have to really perfect your application and to establish a good relationship. And as Benjamin was saying, to actually have a feel for that supervisor. Are they really inclusive? Do they pay attention to the barriers or not? And the sooner you start, the better feel you will have, because in the end, you will have to work with this person for several years. You can always change supervisory team, it's possible, but it is a difficult step. So you want to get a good feel of this person, and the sooner you start talking about it, the better, I think.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from anyone? How much help is it normal to get with the proposal? Will it be normal to ask a potential supervisor to read the draft of the proposal, or should you try and get the proposal polished and finished before asking for feedback? If I were you, depending on how much time you have in your hand, you can actually approach a prospective supervisor with your idea. Tell them that this is what you intend to do. Have like a little bit of draft of what you want to discuss with them, like the title, the topic of your research, your aim, your objective, your research question, and the methodology. Just a draft, and approach them. Some of the supervisor will be able to advise you, oh, why do you want to do it this way? Why can't you think about this? Then you go away and use that to do your complete draft. But there is no harm in actually writing your draft polished to your level and seek for help as well. It depends on each person, individual student, depend on what the supervisor will be interested in as well.
That is true, but I would say that it's you. I mean, depends on an individual, of course, basis with the colleagues. I tend to, and I think all of us on the team tend to provide a lot of feedback on the draft. It doesn't have to necessarily all be polished. And it's good to see if people are willing to do that, because it might, along the way mean that they're not going to be the greatest supervisors if they're not investing in you.
Yeah.
And so if they don't want to give any feedback or so, that is also a good sign that you might want to think about another person, because usually people, majority of people actually really read and drafts and help you really perfect it. It has to be yours, so you have to do 85% of the work. But supervisor is there to help you structure it well, to help you think about it, give you the critical literature you may be missing, and so on. But you want people you want the supervisor who is invested. So that's a good test as well.
Because that shows that they are actually really interested in you and your topic and your work.
For sure.
Yeah. Any other question?
I've shared the link with you for feedback. You can also leave us questions in that feedback, so we can also get back and answer to you as well. We are very happy to do this. So yeah, I think we are now done. It's been more over 2 hours almost. Thank you so much for coming to our workshop. Thank you for asking questions and for engaging. And please shoot us an email, and we will get back to you with all the materials probably by the end of today or latest tomorrow. And yeah, if we can help you in your journey, find some things. Of course, we are experts in different fields. That's why we can't answer a specific question for a specific field. That you will have to go to the department. But general questions and kind of guidance we definitely can provide.
Thank you so much for attending, and thanks for all the questions as well. This recording will be shared. Yeah, it will be shared here.
Okay, good. Thank you all.
Then where will the meeting be posted?
On our website.
On our website, okay. Oh, there's another.
Just a thank you.
Okay, it's just thank you. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.